My name is Ryan Elsadig. I am the co-founder and also logistics chair of Bridge the Gap Conference.
Hi, my name is Michael Dussault, and I am part of the finance committee for Bridge the Gap.
Hi, my name is Janine Hernandez. I'm one of the co-founders for the Bridge the Gap Conference, and I am the chair of public affairs and marketing.
Hi, I'm Vita, and I am the chairperson of finance on the founding executive board for Bridge the Gap, and we're really excited to be here.
Bridge the Gap is a student-led conference here at Lesley University Conference. It's the first of its kind here, and we really are focusing our audience on attracting activism and advocacy through the arts.
So something that we really thought about when we were designing our conference was what makes it stand out and different from other conferences, and something that's really important in activism and social justice work is taking care of yourself and the healing aspect of it. You know, we can have all these conversations, we can talk about what we need to do differently, but at the end of the day, it's also really important to take care of yourselves, because if you don't, then you can't be an active member or an active ally or an effective ally to the communities that you're trying to serve.
We engage in art in our everyday lives, whether it's poetry, visual, photography, or film. We wanted something that would include that, so the mission statement is basically engaging through activism through the arts. So we're having sessions around healing, meditation, diversity and inclusion, and to really have those uncomfortable talks that are really being discussed.
One of the motives that I had been thinking about when we were brainstorming about the conference is how growth cannot foster in confinement. And just keep in mind that if you put something in a box, it'll only be subjected to that box. It will only be subjected to those four corners, right? So how do we make this bigger than what we are? How do we spread the conversation? How do we bridge that gap?
So a few of us went to a conference in Rhode Island called Dive-A-Rye, and we got the inspiration from that university.
I think for the five of us, we've always known that this is something we wanted to have on campus, and after attending Dive-A-Rye, it was something that we really left with the inspiration, thinking that we knew we could make it happen.
I've had a very great experience being part of the finance committee for Bridge the Gap. As far as like making connections with staff and faculty on campus, that's been great. I've reached out to a lot of the department chairs, and whether that's class or LA plus D, I've gotten such great feedback, whether they can donate or not. Everyone kind of wants to bring something to campus, make this the most positive experience that we can for everyone.
So one of our many hopes is for this to continue to be an annual conference. So the way that we started this year, we tried to make it very sustainable, and we're planning ahead. And everything we have been doing has been thought about 5 years ahead from now.
There's so much that students here can offer. There's so many resources that we as people can provide to one another, and I want that to be a continuation in the upcoming years.
Individual hope would be proactive activism, because I feel like Lesley has this tag of social justice, but we aren't really being proactive about it. So one of my hopes is to have students who attend this, either faculty or outside folks from Lesley, try to really engage and also take what they learned outside of it.
We spend a lot of time really thinking about who to bring, who's going to fit in with the mission of our conference, who's going to be a good fit, who really embodies social activism, but also through the arts.
And something that we were keeping in mind when we were picking the presenters for this conference is we want to make sure that as many identities are represented as possible. And we acknowledge that it's impossible to bring up every single identity that exists, but we really tried our best to make sure that each presentation is touching on something that's relevant to current day, relevant to identities that are being marginalized in this time of political climate.
We put a lot of time and a lot of energy into this project. We were planning it for almost a year now, and And we always talk about, meeting people and having everyone come together and seeing the presentations and hearing the conversations happening. And that is what I'm looking forward to the most, because that is why we really put the conference together.
We're really excited for the Self-Care Expo. I think it's going to be a really fun event, and we are hoping that people, do the work, engage in the dialogue that is not always as easy, but still have space to have fun and network.
I'm excited for a lot of things. Honestly, we've been playing this so much, and I just can't help but think that people are going to be lit.
I think one of the purposes is also to learn, but also unlearn a lot of things. Unlearning is not necessarily a negative thing. I feel like there can be a lot of positive things that can come out of unlearning.
With politics right now, particularly in America and globally, it is one or the other. It is black and white. It is 0 to 100. And how do we find that in between? How do we find that gray area with politics and news and globalization and racism and colorism and sexism and a lot of injustice that is happening in the world, and a lot of injustice that happens on an individual level and a global level? How do we bridge that gap? How do we have these conversations that, aren't being had or are being had, but extending that discussion to a greater field? So this is our step into bridging that gap.